All right, Bart with Bicycle Rider YouTube, and I am doing a review of a direct-to-consumer brand bike rack. And you guys know I have owned a bicycle shop. I've sold all the top-tier models, and I'm kind of spoiled and bougie with some of the touch points of the Kuat, the One-Up, the Thule, and I'm not used to fumbling around with manual stuff like this to get a pin out. So this is a raw and real review of the OutfitR, or here you can see it says Young Electric. So OutfitR and Young are the same brand, but this is their top tier model. This is their tire clamp e-bike rack, and I'm going to do a real and raw review of this racks and rack system. And I say system because not only do I have their tire clamp 2 e-bike on here, 2-bike rack, but I also have their swing away, which is a important piece of gear. And I've already done the video. It was a raw and real video. I don't have a bike shop anymore and all the professional tools. So just like you guys, I'm working in my backyard on the ground trying to put these things together, trying to use them, and first overall opinion of actually carrying some high-end gravel bikes and mountain bikes. This is an e-bike rack, so along with the no frame touch, you also get the high weight capacity. You guys know I'm used to the top tier brands. This is a direct-to-consumer brand, so with that also comes a much better price point. Being an insider to the bicycle industry, I've always been able to get a discount on the top tier brands, and I realize now that the price points of those cost as much as the bike sometimes. So stay tuned for the video. Watch, you'll see me putting this thing together in the backyard, not only the swing away but the rack itself, and my first use and initial impressions of this rack. I'm going to keep it on the back of my van, even though you can see on the back there I've got a Kuat, and I have several other racks that I'm testing out. But I'm going to keep this on the back of my van, do a real review test, and stay tuned to the video and you'll get to see how this thing comes together and my first initial opinions of this rack. Watch the rest of the video. Okay guys, well this is what the EZ-Swing Pro box looks like right here. Earlier on you heard me talk about OutfitR, that's the name of the company, but you can see it's also Young. So if you see Young or OutfitR, but I'm getting ready to open this thing up, see what's inside, and then I'm going to assemble it. So that's why I've laid out I've noticed when you're working with lots of little bits and pieces, if you can't be working on the concrete, you're working on the grass, lay out a blanket. So moving blanket, EZ-Swing Pro, getting ready to open up and see how the installation and assembly goes. I'll keep the video rolling from time to time to let you guys know how the assembly goes. I tell you what, assembling this one was a bit of a bear. I was missing a couple parts, but OutfitR was able to send me the parts pretty quickly, so it didn't stop that process. But hopefully this goes a little bit easier because I'm ready to go mountain biking. Voila, well, about 20 minutes later and the almost fully assembled Young swing away is on my van, so I was pleasantly surprised about that. This mechanism here is heavy duty. It has to be, just like on the Kuats. The pivot is probably half the price of what you're talking, because yeah, that needs to be a very sturdy. Mine was a little tight, like I could not move it. The bolt tightens itself up. It's a little bit different mechanism than on the Kuat. So like I said, happy that it went on quickly. It's got a nice latch mechanism, and one thing to note, a lot of people ask me why I take it off rather than going straight into the hitch, and that's because this is not designed to tow. So when I tow my boat or my trailer, you have to take this off. Kuat uses once again a little bit different design. This is a threaded locking pin, and they did give a nice lock, and it does stop the, it's an anti-wobble, but they also give you one of these horseshoes with a plate, so you can bolt this, actually bolt this here underneath there, and that's a second anti-wobble and anti-theft device. I use one, you can see in the spider web of cables, I have one here that holds my extension on, so I'm familiar with those. I think to get the 250-pound load capacity, you have to have that on there. I'm not going to put it on because, like I said, I use my van for more than one thing, and I don't want to have to unbolt this every time I go on and off. Maybe I'm taking a big road trip and I don't plan on towing anything, but you know, I live on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, so I'm usually in my boat, or I have a custom bicycle trailer when I have to carry multiple bikes. So they do give you the plate, which is nice, because I've had to buy these plates separately at different times, and they are costly. So this plate would bolt on here. I'm going to go without, but I'm going to be putting on some carbon fiber race bikes today that are very much lower weight than the overall carry capacity of this. And it does seem like this is going to be like the threaded hitch pin is really going to do the job. So I'll let you know, but so far I'm really happy of how fast this went together, and it does look like the overall latch and safety mechanism is all made out of some pretty high quality stuff, but you don't know until you try it. I'm gonna get ready to go try it today. So far the EZ-Swing Pro has been easy to get out of the box and put on the back of the van. I hope the scissor rack is the same, because I'm ready to get out there and do some mountain biking. All right, well, let me demonstrate how this works here. You've got a nice safety latch, and it is made out of metal. So this is your pull pin, and then this is your safety latch, and down here there is a trigger. So you do have to pull the trigger and pop that up, and then you can swing this out. So move this out of the way, swing it out. Now my pivot was a little bit tight, and of course you could tell I'm a bicycle mechanic, so I got the old tri-flow out and lubed it up a little bit, because I think some of it, you can see the paint here, so it might have just been the paint a little thick where the pivot is. So little tri-flow, a little use, and I think that's going to be all right. But I am glad that it has some nice safety features, because that's one nice thing. You don't want this thing swinging out on the road. So basically you tight fit, pull the pin, lock it into place. Like I said, not quite as easy as using the Kuat, but the new Kuat Piston Pro is about $1,500, where this is a lot more price friendly. But you do have to deal with a few touch points that might be a little bit harder to work. But as you can see, I'm doing this one-handed with a GoPro, and it's not a big deal, especially once you get the routine. Like I'm learning, get this out of the way, and then you can open it up. And I do like that it opens up towards the passenger door. My Kuat Pivot opened up towards the driver door. You can get either on the Kuat. I don't know if they give you a choice here, but it's a lot easier when your bikes don't swing into traffic if you're parked on the side of the road. So if you get a chance, do the passenger door entry, and that's the way this rack came, so I'm happy about that. Well, next is the new scissor rack, and then I'll put the whole system together and keep rolling the video. All right, well, next part of the process, now that we've got the swing away on there, 2-inch hitch swing away by Young Electric. So it is rated for electric bikes. We're going to be putting on the tire press 2 e-bike rack with ramp. Hope this is the right rack. Hey, we'll find out here in a second. All right, well, they did send me the right rack. This is a scissor style rack, I call it. They're calling it a tire press 2 e-bike ramp with rack. So tire press, basically, rather than having the hook that just goes over the front wheel and a strap on the back, this actually is a design that I've seen a company like One Up do for years. Very high quality rack. And then of course the one I'm familiar with is the Kuat Piston Pro. Very, very cool. They do add a bit of security because you're getting a tire press on both the front and back wheel. But as a professional bicycle mechanic, as someone that has assembled not hundreds, but probably thousands of racks from the top tier companies, the Yakimas, the One Ups, the Kuats, the Thules, the Ceres, Usually I don't even open up instructions, but I wanted to see what the instructions look like. Sometimes when you're buying direct-to-consumer brands, instructions are so hard to read. This is English with diagrams. Seems pretty easy, and since I want to go mountain biking fairly quickly, I don't want to spend all afternoon putting this thing together. So I probably won't follow the instructions bit by bit, but I'll look at a couple of pictures. You can see when I'm assembling a rack, I go ahead and usually put it in the receiver, and that way I've got something to work on if I'm not working on a bench, and you can see me here in the backyard working on a blanket, so I don't lose parts and pieces. So, well, I'm gonna stop talking, put this thing together, and we'll put it to use because I want to go mountain biking here in a little bit, and this looks like it's going to take a bit of assembly, so time to get to it. All right, well guys, don't do what I did. I didn't look at the instructions. I mean, it is nice that they have some instructions that are actually in English, and it's simple compared to some of the racks I've put together that come in 5 different languages. So it is nice that they do give you some basic instructions. I was in a hurry, so I pretty much could figure out how to get this rack together pretty easy, which compared to the other 3-bike rack, this was easy to put together. I did notice a couple things putting it together. I'll go over those later, but all in all, the rack seems like, you know, nice high quality rack. It does sit off the back of my van a little bit further than the Kuat, so in essence I can get my back door open without even using the pivot. Sticks pretty far back out there. I'll show you guys what it looks like with bikes on it. I'm in a hurry to get going so I can get out to the mountain bike trail. So what I did notice about these wheel chocks, and I probably shouldn't say anything until I actually use them, but they do come for different sizes of wheel, and they're bolted in. So if you've got a different size wheel that doesn't quite fit where this goes, you'll have to unbolt it and slide it. But I think most people that use this rack probably just have 1 or 2 bikes. As a professional tour guide, bike mechanic, I'm always putting different bikes and different sizes on here, and that's what's nice about the scissor style racks is generally you can put lots of different sizes on without having to adjust anything. So so far so good. I like it. It even has a little ramp. I'm not going to put the ramp on right now, but for heavier bikes or e-bikes, that ramp is going to be nice. So quick review for right now because I'm ready to head out to mountain bike trails before it starts raining, and on the fly, it's together within a half an hour, and I didn't even use half the tools I brought out there with me. So far so good. All right, well, just as I expected, I had to kind of move this chock, this front wheel chock for the 3rd touch point up a little bit, and to do so I have there's 2 bolts, one here and one here. I had to use an Allen wrench and a 10mm socket, which is not a big deal, but I don't want to have to do that every time I put a different wheeled bike on the rack. So you can see it's on there nice and sturdy. I do notice that on at least the Piston Pro from Kuat, the arms are a little bit longer, and I can actually put the wheel vise a little bit higher on the tire. But I mean, the bike is on there. It's on there very well. But I did had to move the chock by hand. But overall, it's a cool looking rack. Even has some kind of little carbon fiber wrap. Of course, that's aluminum and steel construction. But I don't know. This is a $9,000 bike here, and there's a $6,000 bike here. So you know, you really have to trust your rack. Not only because of the price of the bikes, but also, you know, you don't want to cause an accident, and then that could really cost you money. So don't cheap out on racks. This scissor style rack is what I'm calling this. They're calling it like a wheel vise or a 2-wheel rack. Is about half the cost of my Kuat rack here, and this is an older style rack with the wheel hook, so I wanted more of a wheel vise. Anyway, enough talking for now. I'm gonna take these things out to the mountain bike ride, and I'm gonna use the new rack to do it. All right, first time using the rack, and you see, even though I've moved the chock up, it still has quite a bit of space here. I'm getting a little bit of, well, that's a lot better since I moved that. Let me see if I can move the other one. But there's really nothing locking that. Anyway, these bikes are on as good as they are on my Kuat, so I just guess anytime when I try a new rack, I'm extra cautious, and that's just because I've owned a bike shop and I see the ramifications of bikes falling off a rack, and I don't want these things falling off my rack. So time to go mountain biking. All right, well, I've got the OutfitR scissor style rack installed on the truck. I did want to show you, now that I've got a camera person, I was trying to do this earlier, but this is how the pivot works on it. And of course, you know, this is the first time I've used this rack, but you've got your trigger here, your safety trigger. You've got to pull, unlash that, got your safety here, and this is how it swings away, kind of like that. So that way you can get in and out. To me, it's pretty important with the way that I, you know, have this big hatch on the back of my van to be able to get in and out. So that is the swing away. You guys saw me assemble that earlier. Not quite as premium as the Kuat I took off, but definitely functional. I'm happy with the quality, and really for the price, this is half the price of the Kuat. I have to say I've used the Kuat for years, so I can't really complain about that. But for those that are a little bit more budget minded, this whole system, this basically is a copy of the premium Kuat Piston Pro, which I've had with the scissor style rack. That rack is about 1,500 bucks. Then I think OutfitR has this for about $600, so basically about half the price. Let me get the bikes off of this and show you how to do it. And believe me, I really like the Kuat Piston Pro. This is basically same kind of function where you move it like this, move it like this, and off it goes. Of course, you know, the $1,500 Pivot Pro has some premium handles and fit and finish, but I think for the price, if you're a little bit more budget minded, the OutfitR, or on this one it's actually branded Young, does a pretty good job of mimicking that technology. Maybe a few less premium features, but for carrying the bike with this scissor style rack, I think it's going to do a good job. But I will put it to the long-term test. Today's just the first one. I'm still not fully confident in it yet, but we're going to get there. We'll get there together. Bart from Bicycle Rider YouTube, over and out. All right, well, conclusion of the first use of the OutfitR scissor style bike rack was that it is definitely a good rack for the value, especially compared to some of the top tier brands that I'm used to. And now having this new scissor style really does hold the bikes good. There's a few things that I did when I when I assembled this rack that I'll show you guys that I made a mistake, but you saw me do it. I was in a hurry to get mountain biking. I didn't follow the directions, and shoot, let me see if I can show you right now. I'm just using my GoPro here, but you guys know this is real. This is actual use, and this is how I've compared this to the rack that I've been using for years, the Kuat NV series. I also have several videos on the Kuat transfer series, which I do like. Now there are a few things with this rack that you don't have the premium features. One is, and it's hard to do on a GoPro, but one is this button right here. On like the Kuat Piston Pro, you hit that button, it's got a gas piston that opens up the, opens up the arms. You know, I can't do this with one hand basically, but you hit this button and you've got to move this arm manually instead of having a gas piston move the arm for you. You know, those are some of the things where I say premium touch points. This right here too, on the Kuat, I've got an automatic button kind of with a spring that I can raise and lower the rack with. This I've got to pull a pin, which I can't really do with one hand, but you pull the pin and then this this whole arm folds down so you can actually use the rack. So rather than you know, basically the Kuat actually has a foot pedal, and you hit it with your foot and you can make that you know, fold down easily one-handed. But that's why there's a big difference in price as well. Basically the Kuat Piston Pro is about a $1,500 bike rack, and I believe that this bike rack here is about a $600 bike rack. I'll put it in the description, the actual advertised price of it. I was impressed with the actual pivot part of this. As far as the assembly goes, as far as the way it works, it's a very solid piece of equipment that seems like it does what the Kuat swing away does at a much better value. Once again, a few little touch points. You know, like here's when you open this up, you definitely want to move this up like this. You got to move this, and then it doesn't quite swing away as nice. You know, they've got, actually, as I use it more, it works better. Like I said yesterday, I had to lube this up a little bit, but it is quite sturdy. I like the way it works. The whole combination works good. I'll put the total price. And if you are, you know, if you do have a 250-pound capacity with this unit, which is way greater than the capacity of the Kuat that I've been using. So I've also tested the Cyclist, the Yakima, and the One Up, and those are all top tier brands for a reason. You pay that top tier price, but you get a premium fit and finish, and you know, a product that's lasted for a long time with a lot of customer support. On this rack, that's where the value comes in. If you're not so worried about those things and you just want a rack that's going to work with these new style scissor racks, this is the best one I've seen for that under $1,000 price, and this is well under $1,000. It seems to be working well. Of course, you know, here on Bicycle Rider YouTube, I'm going to keep pushing this product. I'm going to use this product every day with multiple bikes, so I'm going to keep using it. But so far, the OutfitR scissor style rack works great. And you did see I put some carbon fiber higher end mountain bikes on this yesterday rather than just electric bikes. I'm a fan of electric bikes as well, but if you're looking for the new style scissor rack, check out Young. You know, it's Young, but it's also OutfitR. I think it's the same company. I'm not sure what the naming scheme difference is, but it's the same rack, OutfitR and Young. And I've had a couple people ask me about this because it is a carbon fiber looking, but I think it's just a wrap over aluminum, which, you know, at least they kind of made it look cool. But this thing is quite big. Luckily, I've got this cool, well, what I think is cool, adventure van rig, and I can get away with something like this on my adventure van. I don't know, you know, if you got a nice BMW X7 or a Range Rover or something like that, maybe you can afford the higher end rack systems and don't mind paying, you know, $2,000 for something super cool. But this is what it looks like. I think it's a, you know, definitely keeps people off your bumper. They wonder what the heck this is on your bumper. I might put, there's a big flat surface here on the bottom. I might put a few cool stickers or something on there, but there it is in the folded up, you know, folded up version. It does stick out from my van quite a bit, but I do also have this extra extender here because I'm so low to the ground here, and that's another factor. With a 2-inch, most of the time you're going to be with a pickup truck or an SUV that gives you more clearance. My van is very low, so that's why I put this extender, you know, on here on my van. So just know if you've got a low SUV or something, this would be very, very low to the ground, if you just put this straight into your hitch. But that would also bring it closer, which, you know, is better. I kind of like it far out. You have to be a little bit more careful with your leverage when you have it so far out. But anyway, my first opinion, first use was good. The assembly process went fairly well. First use, bringing it out to the mountain bike trails, were fairly well. Stay tuned in this video, and you'll see some video with my X5 camera as we're going down the dirt road. But everything held well. But more to come on the OutfitR. I'm going to keep it on my van for a while and put it through the test. Bart from Bicycle Rider YouTube, over and out. All right, Bart with Bicycle Rider YouTube. And I am doing a video series on the different types of racks. So this is my trusty Kuat rack that I've had for several years, and I'm getting ready to take this off my vehicle. In the previous videos, I said it was heavy, so watch me take this thing off and you'll see. One of the reasons it is heavy is because I do have the pivot on it. And the pivot is a really nice feature, especially like right now I got to get in my van. If I didn't have the pivot and I tried to get in my van, like basically this is how I drive down the road, you can see that my door hits. Also, when it's in usable position and I had bikes on here, it would hit my bike too. So the pivot is so nice for being able to get in and out of the way. And what I have to do now is I have to get a wrench. So it's kind of nice with the premium Kuat. It has an anti-wobble. So the anti-wobble mechanism is in here, and it keeps the hitch from wobbling inside the 2-inch receiver. I've seen a lot of cheap racks that don't have that, and you go down the road and the thing wobbles around. So to get to the bolt, I open up the pivot. Now I have, and in a previous video you hear about me saying that if you tighten this too much, there is a piece in here that can break, and I've seen several people break because they try to tighten it up too tight. One thing about Kuat, they've got a great warranty, and they've always taken care of my customers who have broke that piece. Now the rack that I'm getting ready to put on is called an OutfitR. It doesn't have some of the premium features, and we're about ready to test that out. So I am bougie, I am spoiled. I'm used to my high-end Kuat rack, and there's going to be a few features that I probably won't have. I don't want to specifically say because I haven't tried out the OutfitR rack, the new scissor rack from OutfitR. So it is a premium model, and I am going to be using the, you know, the swing away from OutfitR. But I wanted to show how heavy this thing was. But before I do, let me see if I can get my camera person to come over here and show this. This is, when I say OutfitR, guys, get familiar with this brand here, OutfitR. It's also Young. So Young and OutfitR are basically the same company. This is one of their 3 bike racks that I've tested out, and it is absolutely secure. So once again, I'm a little bit bougie. I'm used to the top tier brands, and this rack just didn't have some of the fit and finish that I like the kind of the plastic sliders, stuff like that. What I really didn't like about this rack for my purposes is this bar here in the middle. This bar here in the middle is absolutely secure. When you put a heavy e-bike or something on, you use this for a third touch point. I'm going to be putting some carbon fiber bikes on here. I like the no frame touch racks, and this new scissor rack that I'm going to be putting on is no frame touch. So nothing against this rack from OutfitR, it just wasn't what I wanted. It is great if you have a direct-to-consumer e-bike and you want something to put on the back of your truck and to be absolutely secure. This rack is absolutely secure and does come with a ramp, so it helps get the heavy-duty e-bike off. So I'm gonna have my camera woman shut down the video here, and then we'll start it back up after I get this thing unlocked from my truck, so I can show you how heavy it is. All right, I'm about ready to lift this thing off my truck. Obviously, I've done it several times, so I have a little method to it. But I just wanted to show you, once I loosen the anti-wobble mechanism, this is what I'm talking about, wobble. Like, I see a lot of cheap bike racks going down the road doing this, and every time it wobbles, you have a chance to have something come loose. So the important thing is having a tight fit to the actual hitch. Now, I do take this hitch off my my van quite often to put the boat on the back or to put the trailer on the back of the truck. So this is something that I have to do quite often. I've learned not to carry this thing very far. You know, I'm 150 pounds and I'm strong for my size, but this thing is heavy, but it's also lopsided because a lot of the weight's on the left-hand side. So as I slide this thing out, you can, I've actually busted a nut trying to carry this thing across the street before and put it in a warehouse. So I kind of have it where I can simply flop it down. I don't know how heavy this thing is, but it's probably over 100 pounds. It has to be heavy duty to do the job you want it to do. So lightweight is important when it comes to a bicycle. Heavy duty is important when it comes to a bike rack. So as you can see, it's not something that you want to ask your wife to do unless she's stronger than you, and it's not something that you want to have to carry far. So I could take the pivot off of it and make it quite a bit lighter, but then it's harder to put back on the vehicle quickly. So that's an example of taking the Kuat NV2 base and the pivot off the back. And I can feel my lower back right now, so it's not something you want to do often. I'm getting ready to go mountain biking here in a little bit, and you'll see a new rack on the back of this. And I don't want to start off the day with a sore back, so that's what it's like taking the Kuat off the back. And it's going to be weird because it's not going back on my truck for a while. So let's give the OutfitR scissor rack a try. Thanks for hanging with me, Bart with the Bicycle Rider YouTube.